Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Reloading Chat. So I'm going to prime a little bit of this 9mm brass, and let's talk about the Ninth Circuit. Its ruling that has blocked Trump's immigration and refugee ban, and really what the ramifications of that should be, because this is going to be significant, because here's the problem we have. This was done with the support of the people. All right, Trump was elected because people, this is one of the things he ran on, is stopping the flow of terrorists coming in with refugees, immigrants, everyone else into this country. And for some reason the news doesn't like to report on all the terrorist attacks, but we've had plenty from these people. As a matter of fact, when we start talking about this refugee ban, had this refugee ban been implemented 6 months ago or even further back, remember the Ohio State University guy who went and slashed all those people up, who went on a terror attack with a knife and was shot dead by the police? He was a Somali refugee. In fact, he was a Somali refugee that just recently, a month or two before, had a piece run on him by the university of being a moderate Muslim. But he was a Somali refugee. He would have been blocked by this ban from entering the country. That's just a perfect example right there. So when people say, what would this ban have stopped? It would have stopped him from being in the country. And there have been quite a few others. That's one that was kind of high profile, but do a little digging. There have been a ton of these refugees who have been stopped by the FBI. We had 3 different terror attacks stopped by the FBI in Houston. And I don't live in Houston right now, but I'm not far away from it, and I have lived in it recently. But the terror attacks that were stopped by the FBI were by refugees. They stopped 3 separate ones. They found 3 separate cells of them planning terror attacks, and that did make the news. It just didn't seem to make national news very much. The FBI stopped them. So people are acting like this isn't a real deal. Right after we had the Ohio State University guy who was a Somali refugee, an Islamic one at that, did all that. He would have been stopped. So here's the thing that we have. This was supported by the people. All right, the polls that I've seen, the Business Insider one that I linked, showed that more voters that they polled were in favor of the ban than those who opposed it. It has the popular support of the people. Contrary to what the media might be trying to tell everyone, that's not the case. There's plenty of independent polls that are absolutely showing far more Americans support it than those who don't. All right, we elected a president who promised to do this. This court has stepped in and overruled something that the president, there is laws that allow him to do this. First of all, it's not unconstitutional. Number 2, the American people want it. And number 3, we elected him. This is one of the reasons we elected him, to get this done. It is endangering the American people. It is facilitating and assisting terrorists. And that's the problem we have. These judges have ruled against the security of the American people in the Ninth Circuit. It's going to be overturned by the Supreme Court because it is going to be reviewed by the Supreme Court, because it is Trump's deal, and he is going to push it to the Supreme Court, but that takes time. The Supreme Court has a overturning rate of anywhere from about 50% up to the low 80% for cases that it reviews from these various districts. Now, District 9, it has an 80% overturn rate for the cases that it reviews. And I do want to be clear on that. When I say that, that doesn't mean they overturn 80% of their cases, that some people are taking it that way. No, they're overturning 80% of the cases they review from the Ninth Circuit. Okay? That's not the same thing. Because at most, I think the most that any court ever sees is 1% of their cases go to the Supreme Court, and it's usually less than that. So it's not like 99% of their stuff isn't being upheld, but the Supreme Court has not upheld the vast majority that it gets from this region. And this region is known for being particularly leftist, particularly liberal in its views, just because it covers California and all the West Coast and all of that. Your big left-wing bastion, your left-wing stronghold in this country, along with New York. So it's not a surprise they're very, very left-wing, but we need to keep in mind a couple of senators have already proposed a bill to break the Ninth Circuit into 2 different circuits to deal with some of this problem. And people also need to understand that's one of quite a few different circuits. All right, it's not like all these other courts have done this. One branch of the federal court has pretty much stopped Trump here. So it's not like it's the entire court system. And not all the judges, even in the Ninth Circuit, agree with it. So the thing is, they've done this, but here's the thing. There need to be consequences for this. When anyone knowingly endangers the American people and knowingly helps terrorism, they need to be held responsible for it. And that needs to include lawmakers, that needs to include judges, it needs to include police officers, everyone. Everyone who facilitates harm, direct harm of the American people, it needs to be treated as such. And in this case, these judges know that this was an action taken to stop terrorists from coming into the country, to vet people better. Sorry about that. To see if they are in fact terrorists and to put a block on this till we get a control of the situation. I gave you guys a perfect example of an attack that would have stopped. A terrorist attack was committed just a few months ago. I covered it on this channel by a Somali refugee. All right, with a knife attack. And I think I've covered a couple others of those, but that one was just a really big deal because he had previously gotten a little bit of news time. He had been covered previously as being a moderate Muslim, which was interesting. But they have done something that they know for an absolute fact will allow terrorists into this country. All right, it has pretty much been understood by the intelligence community, everyone else, that you figure about 10% of your refugees are going to be extremists. 10 to 15% of your refugees are going to be extremists because 10 to 15% of the population of every Muslim majority country is an extremist and holds extremist views that we would consider terrorist views. So you know that for every 1,000 you let in, you're letting in 100 terrorists. He has blocked this so that we can get a better way of vetting it. And this court has done this knowing that they are going to allow thousands of terrorists into this country with their ruling. There's no question about that. Every intelligence group understands that that is what will happen. So they are guaranteeing that during however many weeks this holds up before the Supreme Court, Trump, other people jump in and re-push a ban back into place, that they are giving a window that has a 100% chance that it will allow terrorists into this country. The very first time that one of these people who come in under their ruling that they have allowed back in, the very first time a single one of these people kills a bunch of people in a terrorist attacks, every judge in the Ninth Circuit involved in this needs to be charged with murder, conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit terrorism, and probably treason. Now, if we do that, and it falls under federal law at that point, that is a capital offense. They will be executed for it. And that's what we need to have happen, is accountability in our government. People want to talk about checks and balances. Oh, this is the judicial checking the president. This is the president consenting to the will of the people to protect the people under something that he technically, under the current law, has a legal right to implement. It is my opinion that we need checks and balances in place of the people. The government needs to be answerable to the people. That's what the Founding Fathers intended. And I contend that the people need to demand the death penalty for any of these judges for the moment one of these people that they let in, knowing for a fact they're letting in terrorists, people who have no right to be in this country. These aren't American citizens. They don't have constitutional rights. They are allowing terrorists into the country when this was done to neutralize a military threat. This was done to stop a direct threat to the people. These judges are guilty of conspiracy to commit terrorism. They're guilty of conspiracy to commit murder of American citizens by doing this. And I'm not saying we need to hit them before it happens, but after it happens, they need to be rounded up and they need to be charged with those crimes and they need to be publicly executed for it. And I think that they need to stand before the families of whatever victims, the victims of what these terrorists they are allowing in. They are victims, families, and survivors of the attack. These judges need to stand before those people and look them in the eyes during their trial. It needs to be televised, and we need to execute them on national television. Because it's about time we drain the swamp. And you drain the swamp by when you have leaders who think that they're above the will of the people and they don't care that they endanger the people because of some whatever political agenda they have that's not even in the best interest of our country. That they have some agenda that they're willing to sacrifice American civilians for. We understand that in war, leaders make choices that sacrifice military people. It sucks. It's not nice. It's dirty business, but that's part of war. But when you knowingly allow the enemy into your country and knowingly allow the violent deaths of American citizens and you're a leader, you need to be held personally accountable for that. And that means you need to be publicly executed for it. And that's what these people are doing. They are knowingly and intentionally murdering American citizens to protect people who are not American citizens, to protect some perceived right of people who are not citizens of this country. They are willing to sacrifice dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of American citizens to terrorists for their own high-minded ideals. They are putting some perceived right to come into this country of foreigners from dangerous countries above the lives, the actual lives and survival of American citizens. They are guilty of conspiracy to commit terrorism. They are guilty of conspiracy to murder American citizens inside of our own homes, inside of our own cities. These people are traitors, and they need to be charged with that when it happens. And I hope we get public executions to send a message to the rest of our so-called leaders and representatives of this country that we, the people, are not going to tolerate this any longer. That's how they should be dealt with. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.